This editorial talks about the tough situation the Pakistani government is facing. On one side, it wants to give tax relief to the people to gain public support. On the other side, it has to follow strict financial rules from the IMF. The article explains how the government is struggling to balance both giving benefits to citizens while meeting IMF targets. It shows the real cost and pressure behind offering any financial relief.
Although bound by the IMF's stern conditions, the federal government appears desperate to provide tax relief to middle-class salaried individuals, as well as businesses, especially the real estate lobby, in the upcoming budget. This desire seems to have grown stronger in the aftermath of Pakistan's recent tactical military win against India, as the ruling party hopes to turn the feel-good factor in the country into wider political support for itself. The question, however, remains: can the government secure concessions from the multilateral lender to implement its relief plans to win over middle-class voters? What we have seen is that the government was compelled to delay the announcement of its budget by more than a week to the 10th of June, when the IMF mission left the country after inconclusive policy discussions on Islamabad's budget proposals last month. No final agreement was reached due to differences mainly on the proposed increase in defense expenditure and tax cuts for individuals and businesses. The fund later said in a statement that the discussions would continue virtually regarding the budget over the coming days, revealing some disagreement. The fund added that the talks focused on actions to enhance revenue, including by bolstering compliance and expanding the tax base, and prioritize expenditure. The outcome of the ongoing virtual budget talks remains inconclusive. Otherwise, we would have heard from the fund or the government that the differences had been sorted out. The IMF feels that the government's expenditure and tax relief proposals will hit the overarching target of the primary budget surplus, whose size determines the reduction or increase in public debt in a given fiscal year of 1.6% of GDP agreed upon by the two sides in policy discussions. The lender wants the authorities to come up with credible proposals, identifying alternative sources of revenue to offset the impact of the increase in defense and other expenditures and the cuts in taxes. The lender has valid reason to be concerned. The widening shortfall of more than Rs 1 tr in tax collection in the first 11 months of the current fiscal year, despite the imposition of record new taxes and the blocking of tax refunds, justifies the IMF's apprehensions. The massive shortfall in tax recovery makes it clear that the FBR may not be able to meet even the revised collection target. The IMF had recently agreed to slash the tax collection target of nearly Rs 13 tr by Rs 640 bn for the full fiscal year, with the fund insisting on fortifying the primary budget surplus target against any additional expenditures and potential revenue slippages. The nation's fiscal authorities have a formidable challenge ahead of them as they try to balance the IMF's program goals with the government's growing desire to deepen the feel-good factor through some fiscal extravagance. Here is a clear analysis of the editorial titled "The Cost of Relief," explained in simple English for better understanding. Main theme. The editorial highlights the tension between Pakistan's desire to provide tax relief to the people and the strict financial discipline demanded by the IMF, International Monetary Fund. Paragraph by paragraph breakdown. First paragraph, the government's dilemma. The government wants to give tax relief to middle-class people and businesses, especially in real estate. This desire increased after a military success against India, giving the government confidence and public support. But the question is, can they do it without upsetting the IMF, which controls the financial aid? Second paragraph, budget delay and IMF talks. The budget announcement was delayed to the 10th of June because talks with the IMF were inconclusive, no agreement. The disagreement was mainly due to Pakistan wanting to increase defense spending and reduce taxes. The IMF wants more revenue, better tax collection, spending control. Talks are still continuing online, which means no full agreement yet. Third paragraph, IMF's concerns. The IMF is worried that Pakistan's tax cuts and increased spending will destroy the agreed budget surplus target, 1.6% of GDP. IMF says, if Pakistan wants to give tax relief, they must find other sources of income. There's already a huge shortfall, over Rs 1 trillion, in tax collection. Despite new taxes and blocking refunds, FBR is still behind its target. IMF had even agreed to lower the target by Rs 640 billion, but Pakistan is still struggling. Key problems highlighted. 1. Pakistan's weak tax system, FBR, is unable to meet targets. 2. Huge spending plans, especially on defense. 3. Desire for public support through tax relief is clashing with IMF's financial discipline. 4. IMF wants solid, realistic plans, not just promises. Conclusion. Editorial's message. Pakistan is trying to please the public with tax relief and please the IMF with financial discipline at the same time. But this balancing act is very difficult. Without strong revenue and tax reform, this strategy could backfire. The government must choose short-term public support or long-term financial stability.